I'm reporting live from the boardroom here at Mogul, Vancouver, our British Columbia headquarters. Now, I think it's easy to say, oh my gosh, the Vancouver market was so crazy and it's going to keep being crazy. Well, that's useful information. It's good to know that if you want to buy something in Vancouver, you're likely going to be participating in bidding wars. It's good to know that you have to be ready with your pre-qualification, et cetera, but one thing that I think is a little bit more interesting is going to be actually looking at areas of opportunity. So I want to show you guys, how many of you guys out there are data driven? Like you really like getting into the numbers, you like looking at stats, you like looking at the story that the data is telling us. Well, that's what I want to, oh, Corey, you're speaking my language, buddy. So I'm going to get into that. I have done some pretty extensive analysis into what is going on in the Vancouver market. And I just want to show you guys. Now, I'm going to show you data that's pretty readily available for the consumer, which is, you guys. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of behind the scenes. So let's have a look at first the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. So first things first, we're looking at, where the most sales occurred. Okay, so we've got, here in the apartment world, tons of inventory, average days on market, pretty quick. We're seeing a benchmark price of 761. We know that in 2022, way more inventory sold. That's not a surprise. We've been watching these trends. December was a lot slower than December of 2020, which makes sense because December 2020 was basically the start of that massive run of activity right before COVID. Now, here's the first little piece of information that caught my attention is the sales to active listings ratio in December. So we can see that only 35% of houses sold, 60% of condominiums sold, 75% of townhouses sold. Okay, that's interesting. So what I'm seeing is the market activity in December actually slowed a little bit. What we're expecting is that as we head into the spring market, we're going to see a surge of activity. You've probably all heard that the Vancouver market is still hot, but what we're seeing is that December was a bit of a slow month. So are people coming out of the woodwork into the new year, and what are they looking at? So this is a tool that only realtors get to use. It's called Paragon. And I did a deep dive into the monthly report. I looked zone by zone, neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city. You can download this if you want. But what I noticed when I looked at this data is that downtown's growth in 2021 was a heck of a lot less than everywhere else's. And so I thought, okay, so downtown is a little bit slow. Let's have a closer look at that. Now, I want to look at condos downtown between 600,000 and 1.2 million. This is the bulk of what I would consider to be affordable condos in the downtown market. Now, I'm going to zoom in on downtown, and I'm going to use this nifty little mapping tool that I've got at my disposal. So when we look at available condos, we can see kind of in the downtown area, there's a decent amount of availability. So I'm just going to isolate downtown at Olympic Village. And I want to actually look at the solds. So we're going to look at sold data. So again, this is some strict behind the scenes realtor information, but it's going to tell you guys what I consider to be a very valuable insight. So in the last 90 days, between 600 and 1.2, the downtown area, we've had 469 sales. The number that stood out to me like a sore thumb is in the actual summary right here. So if we look at the average list price, 840, average sold price, 835. We look at the amalgamated total, the total amount of sales volume, 394 million of list price, sale volume, $392 million of list price. The days on market, okay, average of 32. That's a little bit higher than the house inventory. So what is that telling us? Well, what it's telling me when I combine those two pieces of information is, number one, in a place where all we've been hearing nonstop over and over again is, oh my God, everywhere in all of Vancouver is in a bidding war. Well, not downtown. In fact, on average, downtown is still selling for less than list price. That's a pretty major development. Number two, we know that the growth in downtown was less than the trend in the rest of Vancouver. Well, why was that? It's because everybody said, to heck with downtown. We can go out to the Sunshine Coast and buy a cabin. We can go out into the valley and buy a house that's cheap. We can go to North Vancouver. We can go to Squamish. We can go to Whistler. We can go and when you look at the growth of those markets, those are the markets that grew the most. So the COVID phenomenon is everybody said, I'm out of downtown. I'm going to go live somewhere nice, cozy, and suburban. Well, the fact of the matter is COVID's going to settle down, and there's going to be that identification of the market gap in downtown because the prices there are incredibly soft compared to the rest of the Vancouver area. So right now, there's a window in which the values of the downtown condo market have lagged behind the growth in the rest of the greater Vancouver area. It's going to catch up. So we've been really strategically looking at downtown furnished executive rentals for medium term, like 3 to 6 months, because they rent in a place that can cash flow. And in terms of getting poised for growth, they're in a place right now where the values are depressed relative to the rest of the market. So we know that this wave of inflation hit everywhere. Vancouver went up by a ton, but it's an amalgamated average. Vancouver didn't go up by a bunch. Sunshine Coast, the burbs, Squamish went up by a ton. Downtown went up by very little. And so the average of Vancouver, downtown's growth is less than that, which means that right now there's a slingshot effect where as people start moving back to the core for value, we're going to see those prices grow at a pace faster than the greater Vancouver area. So I figured that would be a little bit more interesting getting into the data and looking at the story of the numbers than me just saying, oh, Vancouver's going to grow by a lot more and there's lots of bidding wars. This is not news. What is news is that market gap that exists downtown right now. So if you guys are thinking about looking for opportunities in the Vancouver area, talk about the downtown condo market, because you can still get stuff for below list price. You still have the opportunity to offer and negotiate. And there's a market gap there that's going to get filled with growth as we head into the new year and as people kind of move back to the downtown core.